Blutbad.
Welcome back to another behind-the-scenes toy photography video. Today I'm going to show you how I made this photo, which I've entitled Desperate Escape. I'm going to start by showing you how I made this flaming engine effect, since I made it specifically for this photo. The first thing I did was fill some glass bowls with water and add red and yellow food coloring to them. After thoroughly mixing the dye, I evenly distributed a package of cotton balls between the three colors. Once the cotton balls were saturated, I squeezed out the excess water. To help them dry quickly, I stretched each individual piece of cotton back into a ball shape. To finish drying them, I used some kitchen implements to hold them in place over my shop fan and left them overnight. Next, using a clear plastic flower vial as my base, I used a hot glue gun to attach the dried cotton balls in a gradient from yellow to red. After the glue was dry, I pinched and teased the cotton balls together to eliminate any gaps between them. It doesn't look like much now, but wait until I get some LEDs in it. On to the setup. The background I'm using is an image of the planet Pantora from the German Star Wars wiki. I'm using 3 LED panel lights for this setup, blue on the left, purple on the right, and white in front. With the lighting in place, I stacked up some acrylic cylinders and figure stands to keep my ships in the air. Sometimes I'll suspend figures with fishing line to cut down on the post-production editing, but I knew I was going to be using a low lighting setup for this photo and I didn't want the ship swinging around as it would cause a blur in the final image. Next comes some additional lighting. I've wired up a single green LED to act as the muzzle flash of the TIE Fighter's cannons, and I've also inserted 2 white LEDs into my cotton ball contraption to really make it look like a flame. This photo required some heavy editing. As per usual, I've combined several photos to create the final image. I have an image with the ties in focus, another with the Razor Crest in focus, and a final image of only my background with all the lights turned off. Shooting with a glossy TV as your background creates a lot of glare issues, so it always pays to have an image of just your background to swap in later if need be. Now you see the ships are all complex shapes with a lot of junk in the background, so in order to isolate them I created selections with the pen tool. It's a tedious process, but one that allows for a lot of precision. After making the selections, I added layer masks to set the ships against my glare-free background. I made a pretty rough selection around the fire, so I also used a soft brush to touch up the edges of the mask. Next I filled in the few gaps around the edges of the background. The TV I'm using as a background is only 40-something inches, so I have to help it along sometimes. Another little bit of touching up I did was to remove the LEDs where they were visible on the ships. I wanted a little bit of controlled motion blur on the ships, so I made a duplicate layer, blurred it, and masked it so just the edges were showing. I also wanted a bit of extra glow from the fire, so I added that in with layer effects. Next are the lasers coming from the TIE Fighter. I simply drew these with the pen tool and the brush tool and added a little bit of glow with the layer effects. To seal the deal, I added a lens flare at the front of the TIE to cover up the LED. And for a little bit of extra drama, I've used the brush tool to add some sparks to the engine. For the last bit of editing, I added my usual adjustment levels to tweak the lighting levels and colors. I've also added a star field in the background to really bring everything together. A few last minor edits to fix up some things I noticed that were bugging me. And there we have the final image. Where we started, and how it's going. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video.